Imagine a web page that tells a story, one scroll at a time. With just HTML and CSS, you can make the background move, pulling the viewer deeper into the experience, and the best part, no JavaScript required. In this step, we'll layer multiple background images and make them move at different speeds. This is what gives the parallel effects its magic, creating depth and immersion in your page. As the content scrolls, the background stays fixed, creating a sense of depth and interactivity. This simple effect can make your web page come alive, all with just HTML and CSS. So let's jump in. Just a quick note, the effect you were seeing is achieved purely with HTML and CSS. For even more magic, you could use JavaScript, but that's for another time. For storytelling, this approach is perfect. So let's set up our project. What we have here is a boilerplate HTML file generated using Visual Studio Code and an image folder to store our background images that you just saw. Today we'll use three images, begin, adventure, and finish.jpg. These represent different parts of our story, the beginning, the adventure, and the end. Let's lay down the basic HTML structure. I'm going to type it out first and then explain. So I'm going to fast forward from here. Right, so we have created three sections, one for each chapter of our story. Each one contains a background image in this Parallax class and text in a .content div. Simple and ready for action. Before we dive into the code, let me quickly explain what the parallax effect is and how it works. So normally when you scroll a web page, everything moves at the same speed. The background and the content, everything scrolls together. But with the parallax effect, we make the background move more slowly than the content in the foreground, creating a sense of depth. Right, let me type a quick CSS and then I'll explain further. All right, let's break this down. First, we use position absolute on the parallax class. This positions the background relative to its nearest position's ancestor. In this case, since the section itself is positioned relative to the viewport, the background image will stretch to fill the entire section. We have also set up top 0 and left 0, which align the background to the top left corner of the section. Together, these ensure that the background image covers the entire section from edge to edge. Next, we use width 100% and height 100% to ensure that the parallax div takes up full size of the section. We want the background image to always cover the entire section, no matter the screen size. We then add background size cover to ensure that background image scales appropriately to cover the entire space without distorting the aspect ratio. Background position center centers the background image in the section, ensuring that the most important part of the image is always visible, no matter the screen size. You can adjust it based on what kind of image you're using. Now here's the critical part of the parallax effect, the background attachment fixed. This keeps the background fixed relative to the viewport as the user scrolls, creating the illusion that the background is further away and moves slower than the content on top of it. Finally, we use z-index equal to -1. This ensures that the parallax element stays behind the text content, which will be placed in a content div right here. Without it, the background could overlap with the content, making the text unreadable. Also note that we have dedicated videos for each of these concepts, background size, background position, attachment, etc. in our HTML background images course available on Learn Awesome, which you can view. Let's modify the CSS a little bit more. First, we set the height of each section to 100 VH. That's 100% of the viewport height. So each section takes up the full screen. I'm going to make a couple of changes. So I'm going to fast forward from here and then I'll explain the changes. Here's what's happening in this code. We reset all margin and paddings. We reset all margin and paddings with static margin 0 and padding 0 to ensure consistency across different browsers. The body is set to 100 VH to take up the entire viewport. Each section is given a height of 100 VH as well, making sure it fills the screen, with the content centered inside it. Right, at this point, the structure is set up, and once we add background images in the next step, you'll see the parallax effect in action. So let me get to it. Right, now each section has its own unique background image, setting the scene for our story from the beginning to the adventure and finally the victory. Time to see that in action. Alright, now with each section assigned its own unique background image, we have set the scene for our story, starting with the adventure's beginning, moving through the journey, and finally culminating in a victorious finish. Look at this. As you scroll, the background stays in place while the content moves smoothly over it. This is the parallax magic we have been working towards. Couple of things to do. We need to center the text in the image, and also it shouldn't be black. Why is it black? Oh, we made a mistake here. This body's background color should be color, not background color. Yeah, that is fixed. Now let's go to the content. Where is the content? Okay, we haven't defined it. So let's define a content portion and style it. Okay, let's break down the code step by step. So first we set the content container's position to relative. This is important because it means that any child element with position absolute, like our parallax background, will be positions relative to this container. In other words, the background will stay in place, but the text will be able to move freely inside the section, making the centering process work. Next are top 50% and left 50%. These properties move the content element to the middle of the section, 50% down from the top and 50% to the right. But the text is still not perfectly centered yet because it is gonna start from exact center. Let me in fact open this, show you. So if we just do these two things, the text is gonna start from here to the right, right? So to fix that, we use this transform property. This is used to truly center the text. This moves the content element back up and to the left by 50% of its own height and width. This ensures that it's perfectly centered within this section. As you can see, it is now centered here, not somewhere here. And finally, z-index 1 ensures that the text is going to appear over the background, right? Because if you remember, we set the z-index to -1 for the background image, so the text is always going to stay on top of it. All right, as a final touch, let's make sure our design looks great on smaller screens. So we'll adjust the text size using media queries. And let me just type it real quick. All right, that's going to ensure the text scales down for mobile, keeping everything readable and well organized on mobile screens. Right, and that's it. You have just created a storytelling experience with multiple background images and the parallax effect, all with HTML and CSS. This technique will make your websites feel more immersive and engaging. Okay, I just realized that we can barely see this text in the white background, so let's fix that as well. So to do that, I'm going to use something called a text shadow, and it goes like this, text shadow. Yeah, I think it looks good. Want to take it further? Try different images, add animations, and experiment with layouts. The possibilities are endless. Right, that brings us to the end of the session. Don't forget to check out other videos in our HTML background images playlist for more tips and tricks about using background images. Thank you so much for watching. Happy coding. Bye.